The wine glass slipped from
I'm
Naomi's
so
trembling
sorry, sir. I
fingers
will
and
clean this
shattered
up.
against the marble floor. Red liquid splashed across the pristine white tablecloth, across the Italian leather shoes of Lawrence Whitman, across the $1,000 suit pants of his distinguished guest. The sound echoed through the dining room like a gunshot, and for 3 heartbeats, nobody moved. Naomi's heart stopped. Mr. Whitman's cold gray eyes turned toward her with a fury she had never seen in her 6 years of service. His jaw tightened. His knuckles went white around his fork. "I'm so sorry, sir," Naomi whispered, dropping to her knees immediately, grabbing at the shards of glass with her bare hands. "I'm so sorry. I don't know what happened. Get out." His voice was ice, pure, frozen ice. "Sir, please let me clean this up. I said, get out, Naomi, now." She scrambled to her feet, her hands shaking so badly she could barely keep them at her sides. Blood trickled from a cut on her palm where the glass had sliced her skin, but she didn't feel it. All she could feel was the weight of Mr. Whitman's stare burning into her back as she rushed toward the kitchen. But just before she pushed through the swinging door, she heard the guest speak. "Lawrence, it's quite all right. Accidents happen." Naomi paused. She shouldn't have. She knew she shouldn't have, but something about Ethan Brooks's voice made her hesitate. It was calm, too calm, and when she glanced back over her shoulder, she saw him watching her with an expression she couldn't read. He wasn't angry. He was curious. And in that moment, Naomi realized that spilling the wine might have been the smartest thing she'd ever done, because 30 seconds earlier, she had seen Mr. Whitman slip something into that glass, something small, something that dissolved instantly, something meant for Ethan Brooks. The kitchen doors swung shut behind her, and Naomi pressed her back against the cold steel refrigerator, trying to catch her breath. Her mind raced. What had she just witnessed? What had she just prevented? And more importantly, what was going to happen to her now? Rosa, the head cook, looked up from the stove with wide eyes. "Naomi, what happened? I heard glass breaking. Are you okay?" "I spilled the wine," Naomi managed, her voice barely above a whisper. "On Mr. Whitman, on his guest." "Oh, no. Oh, Naomi, no." "I know. He's going to fire you." "I know." Rosa wiped her hands on her apron and moved closer, lowering her voice. "Maybe you should go home for tonight. Let things cool down. I can finish serving. Mr. Whitman, he has a temper, but it fades. By tomorrow, maybe he'll—" "He won't forget this, Rosa." Naomi shook her head. "You didn't see his face. You didn't see how he looked at me." The kitchen door swung open, and both women jumped. Marcus, Mr. Whitman's personal assistant, stepped inside with a clipboard pressed against his chest and a neutral expression that betrayed nothing. "Naomi, Mr. Whitman wants to see you in his study after dinner, 9 o'clock sharp." Naomi's stomach dropped. "Am I being fired?" Marcus didn't answer. He simply turned and walked out, leaving the question hanging in the air like smoke. "Grab her, Naomi, arm. What are you going to do?" "I don't know," Naomi admitted. "I honestly don't know." The next 3 hours were the longest of Naomi's life. She sat in the small servants' quarters adjacent to the kitchen, staring at the wall, replaying the scene over and over in her mind. The way Mr. Whitman's hand had moved so casually toward the wine glass, the way he had glanced around the room to make sure no one was watching, the way his fingers had opened and something had fallen and then dissolved into nothing. Poison. It had to be poison. But why? Ethan Brooks was supposed to be Mr. Whitman's business partner. They were finalizing a deal worth hundreds of millions of dollars. Why would Lawrence Whitman try to kill him at his own dining table? Unless the deal wasn't what it appeared to be. At precisely 9 o'clock, Naomi knocked on the study door. "Enter." She stepped inside, her knees threatening to buckle beneath her. Mr. Whitman sat behind his massive mahogany desk, his face illuminated by the soft glow of a single lamp. He didn't look up when she entered. He simply continued writing something on a piece of paper, letting her stand there in silence, letting her squirm. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, he spoke. "Close the door, Naomi." She did. "Sit." She sat in the leather chair across from his desk, her hands folded tightly in her lap to stop them from shaking. Mr. Whitman set down his pen and looked at her. His eyes were cold, calculating, like a predator sizing up its prey. "Do you know how much that bottle of wine cost, Naomi?" "No, sir." $12,000. It was a 1945 Chateau Mouton Rothschild, one of only a few hundred bottles in existence, and you spilled it on my floor. Naomi's throat tightened. "I'm so sorry, sir. I'll pay for it. I'll work extra hours. I'll do whatever." "You could work for the next 10 years and never pay off that bottle." He leaned back in his chair, steepling his fingers beneath his chin. "But that's not why I called you in here." Naomi held her breath. "I called you in here because I want to understand something. You've worked in this house for 6 years. You've never made a mistake, never dropped a dish, never spilled a drink, never been anything less than perfect." His eyes narrowed. "So why tonight? Why that glass? Why at that exact moment?" Naomi's mind scrambled for an answer. I don't know, sir. My hand just slipped. I was nervous because of the important guest, and I—" "Don't lie to me." His voice was sharp as enough to cut glass. Naomi flinched. "I've watched you serve drinks to presidents, to royalty, to the most powerful people in the world, and your hands have never trembled once. So I'm going to ask you again, Naomi." He leaned forward, his eyes boring into her. "Why did you spill that wine?" The truth burned on Naomi's tongue. She wanted to scream it. She wanted to tell him that she saw what he did, that she knew he tried to poison Ethan Brooks, that she had ruined his plan on purpose. But she couldn't, because if she told him the truth, she would never leave this room alive. "I saw a spider," she blurted, "on the tablecloth, near the glass. I have a terrible fear of spiders, always have, and when I saw it, I just panicked. I'm so sorry. I know it's ridiculous. I know there's no excuse, but that's the truth." Mr. Whitman studied her face for a long moment. She could see him searching for the lie, probing for the weakness, trying to break through her defenses. But Naomi held firm. She kept her expression open, her eyes steady, her breathing even. Finally, he exhaled. "A spider?" "Yes, sir. You destroyed a $12,000 bottle of wine because of a spider?" "I'm so sorry, sir." He's silent for another moment. Then, to Naomi's complete shock, the corner of his mouth twitched. Not quite a smile, but something close to it. "Go home, Naomi. Get some rest. I'll see you tomorrow." Naomi blinked. "I'm not fired?" "Not tonight. But if you ever make a mistake like that again, you'll be out of this house before you can blink. Do you understand me?" "Yes, sir. Thank you, sir." She stood up, her legs shaking beneath her, and walked toward the door. Her hand was on the handle when Mr. Whitman spoke again. "Naomi." She turned. "I don't believe in coincidences, and I don't believe in spiders. Whatever happened tonight, I expect it will never happen again." It wasn't a question. It was a warning. Naomi nodded and slipped out of the study, her heart pounding so hard she could hear it in her ears. She had survived, for now, but as she walked down the marble hallway toward the servants' exit, she couldn't shake the feeling that Mr. Whitman knew more than he was letting on, and that her troubles were only beginning. The next morning, Naomi arrived at the Whitman estate at 6 o'clock, just like she always did. But something was different. She felt it the moment she stepped through the service entrance. The air was heavier, the shadows seemed darker, and when she walked into the kitchen, Rosa wasn't there. She found Marcus instead. He was sitting at the kitchen table, scrolling through his phone, looking as unbothered as ever. He didn't even glance up when she entered. "Where's Rosa?" Naomi asked. "Day off." "Rosa never takes days off." Marcus shrugged. "She does now." Naomi felt a chill run down her spine. She wanted to push harder, to demand answers, but something in Marcus's tone told her to let it go. So she tied on her apron and got to work, scrubbing counters that were already clean, polishing silver that already gleamed, anything to keep her hands busy and her mind occupied. But she couldn't stop thinking about what she had witnessed. Around noon, the doorbell rang.
Naomi was in the foyer dusting the crystal chandelier, and she watched as Marcus opened the front door. Ethan Brooks stepped inside. He was wearing a gray suit today, perfectly tailored, and his dark hair was swept back from his forehead. He looked like he belonged on the cover of a magazine, but there was something hard in his eyes, something dangerous that made Naomi's stomach twist. "I'm here to see Lawrence," Ethan said. "He's expecting you. Follow me." Marcus led Ethan toward the study, but just before they disappeared around the corner, Ethan stopped. He turned and looked directly at Naomi. "You're the maid from last night," Ethan said. "The one who spilled the wine." Naomi swallowed hard. "Yes, sir. That was quite a mess you made." "I'm very sorry about that, sir." Ethan tilted his head, studying her with those sharp, unreadable eyes. "Don't be. Accidents happen."
He paused. Sometimes they even save lives. And then he was gone, following Marcus down the hallway, leaving Naomi standing alone in the foyer with her heart racing and her mind spinning. He knew. Ethan Brooks knew what Mr. Whitman had tried to do, and somehow he knew that Naomi had stopped it. But if he knew, why hadn't he said anything? Why hadn't he gone to the police? Why was he still meeting with the man who had tried to kill him? Unless he had his own reasons for keeping quiet, unless he was playing a game that Naomi didn't understand. She spent the rest of the day in a fog, going through the motions of her work while her mind churned with questions. At 4 o'clock, she was in the upstairs hallway, vacuuming the carpet, when she heard voices coming from the study below. She shouldn't have listened. She knew she shouldn't have listened, but she crept to the top of the stairs anyway, crouching in the shadows, straining to hear. "Can't keep covering for you, Lawrence. The board is getting suspicious." That was Ethan's voice, calm but firm. "The board doesn't know anything." Mr. Whitman's voice was ice, "and they never will as long as you keep your mouth shut." "And what about your little maid? Does she know anything?" Naomi's blood ran cold. "She doesn't know anything. She's just a servant, uneducated, simple. She saw a spider and panicked, that's all." "A spider," Ethan laughed softly. "Is that what she told you?" "It doesn't matter what she told me. What matters is that we finish this deal and move on. I've worked too hard to let anything or anyone get in my way, especially not some maid who doesn't know her place." There was a long pause. Then Ethan spoke again, his voice lower now, harder. "I want to talk to her." "Absolutely not. I want to talk to her, Lawrence, alone, and you're going to make it happen." "Why? What could you possibly want with her?" "That's my business. You just make sure she's available tomorrow evening, 7 o'clock, the Garden Pavilion." Mr. Whitman was silent for a moment. When he spoke again, his voice was tight with barely controlled anger. "Fine, but if you do anything to jeopardize this deal—" "I'm not going to jeopardize anything. I just want to have a conversation, that's all." Naomi heard footsteps approaching and scrambled back from the stairs, her heart pounding. She grabbed the vacuum cleaner and pretended to be absorbed in her work as Ethan emerged from the study and walked past her without a word. But just before he reached the front door, he glanced back over his shoulder and smiled. That night, Naomi couldn't sleep. She lay in her small apartment across town, staring at the ceiling, thinking about everything she had heard. Ethan Brooks wanted to meet with her, privately, in the Garden Pavilion. Why? What did he know? What did he want? Her phone buzzed on the nightstand. She grabbed it and saw a text from an unknown number. "Don't trust Lawrence. Don't trust anyone. But meet me tomorrow at 7. Your life depends on it." Naomi stared at the message, her hands shaking. She should go to the police. She should tell someone. She should quit her job and run as far away from the Whitman estate as possible. But she had a daughter to think about, a 7-year-old girl named Kayla who was sleeping peacefully in the next room, completely unaware that her mother's life was falling apart. Naomi couldn't run. She couldn't hide. She was trapped. So she would meet Ethan Brooks tomorrow evening, and she would find out the truth. The next day crawled by at an agonizing pace.
Every shadow made Naomi jump. Every whispered conversation made her paranoid. She kept expecting Mr. Whitman to confront her, to accuse her of eavesdropping, to fire her on the spot. But he barely looked at her. At 6:45, she made her way to the garden pavilion, a white marble structure at the far end of the estate grounds, surrounded by roses and hedges that blocked it from the view of the main house. Ethan was already there, sitting on a stone bench, his hands clasped between his knees. "Sit down, Naomi," he said. She remained standing. "What do you want from me?" "I want to help you." "Help me? I don't need your help." Ethan looked up at her, and for the first time Naomi saw something human in his eyes, something like sympathy. "You do, actually. You just don't know it yet." He patted the bench beside him. "Please, sit. I promise I'm not going to hurt you." Against her better judgment, Naomi sat. "You saw what Lawrence did at dinner," he said. It wasn't a question. "You saw him put something in my glass." Naomi's throat tightened. "I don't know what you're talking about." "Yes, you do, and you spilled the wine on purpose. You saved my life." She said nothing. "I'm not your enemy, Naomi. Lawrence Whitman is. He's been using people like pawns for years, manipulating them, destroying them, and now he's targeted you." "Why would he target me? I'm nobody. I'm just a maid." "Because you know too much, or at least he thinks you do." Ethan reached into his jacket and pulled out a small envelope. "This is what Lawrence really hiding. Not just a business deal, not just money, something much darker." Naomi took the envelope with trembling hands. Inside were photographs, documents, records of transactions that made no sense to her. "What is this?" "Evidence of an affair with my sister, Caroline." Naomi looked up, confused. "An affair? That's what this is about?" "It's not just an affair. Lawrence got Caroline pregnant, and when she threatened to go public, he made her disappear." The words hit Naomi like a punch to the gut. "Disappear? You mean I don't know if she's alive or dead. That's what I'm trying to find out, and I think you can help me." "Me? How?" "You have access to the house, to rooms I can't enter, to files I can't reach. Lawrence trusts you, or at least he did until that wine spill. Lean closer. Help me find out the truth about what happened to Caroline, and in return, I'll make sure you and your daughter are protected." Naomi's heart clenched at the mention of Kayla. "How do you know about my daughter?" "I know a lot of things, Naomi. I've been watching Lawrence for months. I've been watching everyone who works for him, and I know that you're not like the others. You're not in his pocket. You're not blind to who he really is." She stared at the photographs in her hands. A young woman with dark hair and kind eyes. Caroline Brooks. She looked gentle, innocent, the kind of woman who didn't deserve whatever fate Lawrence Whitman had given her. "Why should I trust you?" she whispered. "You shouldn't. You shouldn't trust anyone, but I'm offering you a choice. Help me and I'll get you out of this. Refuse and you're on your own against a man who has destroyed everyone who's ever crossed him." Naomi thought about Kayla, about her small, perfect face, about the life she wanted to give her daughter, a life far away from this world of billionaires and secrets and lies. "What do you need me to do?" she asked. Ethan smiled. "I need you to find Lawrence's safe. It's hidden somewhere in the house, a wall safe, behind a painting or a bookshelf. Inside there are files, documents, proof of everything he's done. Find that safe and we'll have everything we need to bring him down. And if I get caught, then I'll do everything in my power to protect you. You have my word." His word, the word of a man she barely knew, a man who might be just as dangerous as Lawrence Whitman. But what choice did she have? "I'll do it," Naomi said. "I'll find the safe." Over the next 2 weeks, Naomi became a ghost. She moved through the Whitman estate like a shadow, searching every room, every closet, every hidden corner. She worked longer hours, volunteering for extra shifts, making herself indispensable so that no one would question her presence. And slowly, Piece by piece, she began to uncover the truth. She found letters in Mr. Whitman's desk, angry letters from Caroline Brooks threatening to expose their relationship. She found receipts for private investigators, for security consultants, for lawyers who specialized in making problems disappear. But she couldn't find the safe, until one night when Mr. Whitman was away on business and the house was empty. Naomi was in the master bedroom dusting the furniture when she noticed something strange. One of the paintings on the wall, a massive oil portrait of Mr. Whitman's late father, was hanging slightly crooked. She reached up to straighten it and felt the frame move beneath her fingers. Her heart stopped. She pulled the painting away from the wall, and there it was, a small metal safe embedded in the plaster, hidden for years behind the stern face of a dead man. Naomi's hands shook as she reached for the dial. She had no idea what the combination was. She had no idea if she could even open it, but she had to try. She closed her eyes and thought about everything she knew about Lawrence Whitman. His birthday, his wife's birthday, his anniversary. Nothing worked. Then she remembered something Ethan had told her. Lawrence is obsessed with his legacy. Everything he does is about leaving his mark on the world. His legacy. Naomi typed in the date the Whitman Corporation was founded, 09151987. The safe clicked open. Inside were stacks of documents, USB drives, photographs, and a single leather journal. Naomi grabbed everything she could carry, stuffing it into her apron, her heart pounding so thought she might burst. She had done it. She had found the proof. The next morning, Naomi met Ethan at a coffee shop
on the other side of town. She handed him the documents, the USB drives, the journal, everything. "You did it," he breathed, flipping through the pages. "You actually did it. Is it enough? Is it enough to bring him down?" "More than enough. This is everything. Financial records, witness statements, even a confession." He looked up at her, his eyes shining. "Naomi, you're a hero." She didn't feel like a hero. She felt like a woman who was in way over her head. "What happens now?" she asked. "Now I take this to the authorities. I have contacts at the FBI, people I trust. They'll investigate, they'll build a case, and Lawrence Whitman will finally pay for what he's done." "And what about me? What about Kayla?" Ethan reached across the table and took her hand. "I promised I would protect you, and I meant it. I've already arranged for new identities, new passports, a new life in another country. You and Kayla will be safe, I swear it." Naomi felt tears prick her eyes. After everything she had been through, after all the fear and the paranoia and the sleepless nights, it was finally over. Or so she thought. 3 days later, the story broke. It was on every news channel, every website, every newspaper in the country. Billionaire Lawrence Whitman arrested on charges of fraud, embezzlement, and murder. The evidence was overwhelming. The FBI had raided his estate. His assets had been frozen. His empire was crumbling. Naomi watched the news from a hotel room across the city, Kayla asleep beside her, and felt a wave of relief wash over her. It was done. It was finally done. Then her phone rang. She answered without thinking. "Hello?" "Hello, Naomi." Her blood turned to ice. It was Ethan's voice, but it sounded different, colder, harder. "Ethan? What's going on? I saw the news. Lawrence was arrested. It's over." "Oh, it's far from over. In fact, it's just beginning." "What are you talking about?" "The documents you gave me, Naomi, the ones from the safe. Did you actually read them?" No, I didn't have time. I just grabbed everything and—" "You should have read them, because they don't incriminate Lawrence. They incriminate you." Naomi's heart stopped. "What?" "That doctored those files months ago, Naomi, planted them in the safe for someone just like you to find, someone desperate, someone gullible, someone who would do anything to protect her family." He laughed softly. "The FBI isn't looking for Lawrence anymore. They're looking for his accomplice. They're looking for you." "No, no, that's impossible. You said you would protect me. You said—" "I said a lot of things, but here's the truth. My sister Caroline is alive and well. She and Lawrence had a business arrangement, nothing more. The affair, the disappearance, the whole tragic story, I made it all up to manipulate you, to use you, and you fell for every single word." Naomi couldn't breathe. The room was spinning. Everything she thought she knew was falling apart. "Why?" she whispered. "Why would you do this to me?" "Because I needed a scapegoat. Lawrence was getting too close to some of my own business dealings, illegal dealings, and when I saw how you reacted to that spilled wine, I knew you were perfect, a scared little maid who would do anything to protect her daughter." He paused. "You should have minded your own business, Naomi. You should have looked the other way." The line went dead. Naomi sat frozen, the phone pressed against her ear, her mind racing. She was being framed. Ethan had set her up from the very beginning, and now the FBI was hunting her for crimes she didn't commit. She looked down at Kayla, still sleeping peacefully, completely unaware that their lives had just been destroyed. What was she going to do? Naomi grabbed her bag and scooped Kayla into her arms, moving on pure adrenaline. She had to run. She had to hide. She had to find some way to prove her innocence before it was too late. She slipped out of the hotel through a back entrance and into the night, her daughter clutched against her chest, her mind spinning with fear and betrayal. She had trusted Ethan Brooks. She had believed his lies, and now she was paying the price. As she disappeared into the darkness, she made herself a promise. She would survive this. She would protect Kayla, and someday, somehow, she would make Ethan Brooks pay for what he had done. But first, she had to stay alive. She found a bus station and bought 2 tickets to a city 400 miles away. As the bus pulled out of the terminal, Naomi pressed her forehead against the cold window and watched the lights of the city fade into the distance. Her old life was gone. Her innocence was gone. Everything she had worked for, everything she had believed in, had been torn away in a single phone call. But she was still standing, and as long as she was standing, there was hope. The bus rumbled through the night, carrying Naomi and Kayla towards an uncertain future. At some point, Naomi's phone buzzed with a new message. She almost didn't look at it, but something made her reach into her pocket and pull out the phone. The message was from an unknown number. "You're not safe. You never will be. But if you want the truth about Ethan Brooks, meet me in Denver, 742 Maple Street. Come alone." Naomi stared at the screen, her heart pounding. Who sent this? Was it another trap? Or was it her only chance at salvation? She didn't know, but she knew one thing for certain. She was done being a pawn in other people's games. She was done being manipulated and used and discarded. From now on, she would be the one making the moves. She would find out who sent that message. She would uncover the truth about Ethan Brooks, and she would clear her name, no matter what it took. As the bus carried her into the darkness, Naomi looked down at her daughter, sleeping peacefully in her arms, and felt a fierce determination rise up in her chest. This wasn't the end of her story. It was only the beginning. And whoever was waiting for her in Denver, whoever thought they could control her fate, was about to learn a very important lesson. Naomi Santos was done being afraid. The bus disappeared into the night, leaving nothing behind but lights fading on an empty highway and a woman who was ready to fight for everything she had left. But somewhere in the shadows, someone was watching, someone who knew exactly where she was going, and someone who had plans of their own. If you've made it this far, you need to drop a comment right now and tell me what you think Naomi should do next. Should she trust the mysterious message? Should she go to Denver alone? Or should she disappear forever and start a new life with Kayla?
Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And if you want to find out what happens next in Naomi's story, make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next episode. This story is far from over, and trust me, the twists are only going to get crazier. Smash that like button if you're rooting for Naomi. Share this video with someone who loves a good thriller. And remember, in a world full of billionaires and secrets, sometimes the most dangerous person in the room is the one you never suspected. Until next time.